My son's piano teacher never charged us, and what I found in his studio horrified me. My 8-year-old son Marcus had been taking piano lessons from a man named Victor for almost a year when I finally asked about the bill. Victor taught out of his home studio in a nice neighborhood about 15 minutes from our house. Marcus had found the flyer at the community center and begged me to sign him up. When I called to discuss payment after the first month, Victor laughed warmly and said he didn't charge for children's lessons. He explained that he was retired, his wife had passed away, and teaching kids gave him purpose. He said watching young people discover music was payment enough. I thought it was sweet, generous even, so I didn't question it. Marcus loved his lessons. Every Tuesday he'd come home humming classical pieces and practicing scales on our kitchen table like it was a keyboard. Victor sent home progress reports with gold stars and encouraging notes. He seemed like the perfect teacher. But small things started bothering me around month 6. Marcus mentioned that Victor always locked the front door during lessons. When I asked why, Marcus shrugged and said Victor told him it was so nobody would interrupt their practice time. I told myself that made sense. Focus was important for learning. Then Marcus said something that stuck with me. He mentioned that Victor had a special room in the back that was always locked. Marcus asked about it once, and Victor said it was just storage for old instruments. But Marcus said he could hear sounds coming from behind the door sometimes, humming, like recordings playing on repeat. I started paying closer attention when I dropped Marcus off. Victor's house was always immaculate. The lawn was perfect, the windows were clean, and classical music played softly from inside. But I noticed Victor never invited me in past the entryway. He'd take Marcus by the hand, thank me for being on time, and close the door before I could even see the piano. One Tuesday, I arrived 20 minutes early because my meeting ended sooner than expected. I figured I'd wait in the car, but then I noticed something strange. The blinds in the front room moved slightly, like someone had been watching for my car. Then Victor appeared at the door, looking flustered. He said Marcus wasn't quite finished with his lesson and asked if I could come back in exactly 20 minutes. His tone was polite but firm, almost urgent. I drove around the block and parked on a side street where I could see Victor's house. For 15 minutes, nothing happened. Then I saw Victor's silhouette in the window, pacing back and forth. He checked out the window 3 times in 10 minutes. When I returned at the normal pickup time, Victor was smiling again. Marcus ran out excited about a new song he'd learned. Everything seemed fine. But that night, Marcus said something that made my stomach drop. He said Victor had been asking him questions, not about music, about our family, about whether daddy lived with us, about whether mommy had a boyfriend, about whether anyone ever came to our house after dark. I asked Marcus how long Victor had been asking these questions. He said since the beginning. The next Tuesday, I told Victor that Marcus was sick and couldn't make his lesson. Then I drove to Victor's house anyway and parked down the street. I waited until Victor left to get his mail. Then I walked up to his back door. I don't know what I was thinking. I just needed to see inside that studio. The back door was unlocked. I stepped into a small hallway that led to the main house. The piano room was on my left, exactly as I'd imagined it. Sheet music on the stand, metronome on the shelf, photos of smiling children covering one entire wall. Dozens of photos, maybe 100. Kids of all ages sitting at the piano, some recent, some faded with age. Each photo had a small label underneath with a name and dates. I recognized Marcus in one of them from just last month. Then I saw the locked door Marcus had mentioned. It was slightly open, like someone had left in a hurry and forgotten to secure it. I pushed it open and found stairs leading down to a basement. The humming sound Marcus described was coming from below, not music, something else, something mechanical. I took out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The stairs creaked as I descended. The basement was cold and smelled like chemicals. The first thing I saw was a wall covered in children's drawings, hundreds of them, all signed with first names and ages. The second thing I saw was a desk with files organized alphabetically. I found the M section and pulled out a folder labeled with my son's name. Inside was everything. Photos of our house from different angles, screenshots of my social media, notes about my work schedule, Marcus's school, and the fact that I was a single mother. A printed map with our home address circled in red, and at the bottom of the folder, a calendar with a date circled 3 weeks from now. Next to the date, Victor had written 2 words, because the rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I stare at the words next to the circled date. Take Marcus. My blood turns to ice. The folder slips from my trembling hands, scattering papers across the concrete floor. For a moment, I can't breathe, can't think, can't move. Then survival instinct kicks in. I stuff everything back into the folder, grabbing the most damning evidence, the photos of our house, the calendar, the notes about our routines. My fingers fumble with my phone as I snap pictures of the wall of children's drawings, the alphabetical filing system, everything I can document in seconds. A sound upstairs makes me freeze. A car door slamming. Victor. I clutch the folder to my chest and bolt up the stairs, heart hammering against my ribs. At the top, I pause just long enough to peek through the crack in the door. The front hallway is empty. I slip out of the basement, easing the door almost closed behind me, just as I found it. The back door is only 15 feet away. I can make it. I have to make it. I hear keys jingling at the front door as I reach the back. The lock turns just as I slip outside, pulling the door silently closed behind me. I duck low and sprint across the perfectly manicured lawn, not stopping until I reach my car parked down the street. My hands shake so badly I drop my keys twice before managing to unlock the door. I slide into the driver's seat and slouch down, watching Victor's house in my rearview mirror. No sign of him coming after me. He doesn't know yet. Doesn't know I've discovered his plans for my son. I dial 911, my voice barely above a whisper when the operator answers. I need to report a... I stop, unsure what to call it. I found evidence that my son's piano teacher is planning to abduct him. I found files, photographs of our house, surveillance notes. Please hurry. The operator asks me to stay on the line while they dispatch officers. I give them Victor's address and describe what I found. The folder sits beside me, damning evidence of a monster hiding behind a kindly facade. "Ma'am, are you in a safe location?" the operator asks. "Yes, I'm in my car down the street. I can see his house. Officers are on their way. Please remain where you are." 10 minutes pass like hours. I watch Victor's house, jumping at every shadow. Then I see him emerge from the front door, looking around frantically. He disappears back inside, only to reappear moments later at the side of the house, checking windows, peering into the backyard. He knows something's wrong. He knows someone was there. I slide even lower in my seat when he walks to the curb, scanning the street in both directions. For a terrifying moment, I think he spotted my car, but then he turns and rushes back inside. The first police cruiser arrives silently, lights off, followed by a second. 4 officers approach the house cautiously while I speak to a fifth, showing him the folder I took. "He has dozens more files like this one," I explain, my voice steadier now. "Children's names, addresses, schedules, and this," I point to the calendar with the circled date. "He was planning to take my son in 3 weeks." The officer radios his colleagues, and they approach Victor's front door. I watch from the safety of the police car as they knock. No answer. They knock again, more forcefully. Suddenly, the sound of breaking glass comes from the back of the house. 2 officers sprint around the side while the others force the front door. I hold my breath, clutching the folder like a lifeline. Minutes later, they emerge with Victor in handcuffs. He's struggling, yelling about rights and warrants and mistakes. Then he sees me standing by the police car, and his face changes. The mask slips completely. The kindly piano teacher vanishes, replaced by something cold and calculating. His eyes lock with mine, and I see nothing but hatred. One of the officers approaches me. "Ma'am, we found him destroying evidence, burning papers in the kitchen sink. There was a shredder running in the basement. Did you find the other files?" I ask. "Yes, dozens of them. All children, all with addresses circled, dates marked." He pauses, looking troubled. "There's more. We found a hidden room behind a false wall in the basement. It has," he hesitates, lowering his voice, "it has children's clothing, small suitcases, sedatives. I think I might be sick. He was going to take Marcus." I whisper. "We need you to come to the station to give a formal statement," he says gently. "Is there someone who can watch your son?" "Marcus. I need to call my neighbor to check on him. Need to hold him. Need to know he's safe." As they lead Victor to the police car, he suddenly stops, turns toward me. "You have no idea what you've done," he says, his voice eerily calm. "No idea who I am." The officer yanks him forward, but Victor's eyes stay locked on mine until they push him into the car. I shiver despite the warm evening air. At the police station, I learn the true extent of what I've uncovered. The files contain information on 23 children from our area alone. Each file meticulously documented the child's routine, the parents' work schedules, security systems, pets, anything that might interfere with an abduction. Some of these go back years, the detective tells me, spreading photos across the table. "We've already identified 3 children who moved away suddenly. We're contacting their families now." I stare at the faces of all those children, all those piano students, all those parents who, like me, thought they'd found a generous, kind-hearted teacher. "What's going to happen now?" I ask. "We'll hold him while we build the case. With the evidence you found and what we recovered from the house, we have enough for multiple charges of stalking, criminal planning, and attempted kidnapping." The detective pauses. "You saved your son, ma'am, and probably many others." I should feel relief, but all I feel is hollow. When I finally get home, I hold Marcus so tightly, he squirms away, complaining I'm squishing him. He asks about his piano lesson next Tuesday. I tell him Mr. Victor had to go away for a while. He seems disappointed. That night, I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about those 2 words on the calendar. Take Marcus. I check the locks 3 times, set up a chair against the front door, sleep with my phone in my hand. Because even though Victor is in custody, I can't shake the feeling that this isn't over, that there's more I don't know, that the danger to my son hasn't passed. I was right. I sit in the police station interview room, hands wrapped around a paper cup of lukewarm coffee that I haven't touched. The folder with Marcus's name sits open on the table, its contents now spread out in protective plastic sleeves. Detective Jenkins, a woman with tired eyes and short gray hair, studies me from across the table. "Mrs. Walsh," she says, sliding a photograph toward me, "this man you know as Victor Hensley is actually Vincent Calloway." The photo shows a younger version of Victor Vincent with darker hair and a clean-shaven face instead of the neatly trimmed beard I'm familiar with, but those eyes are unmistakable. He's wanted in 3 states for stalking and attempted child abduction. Jenkins continues. He moves to a new community every few years, establishes himself as a music teacher, and begins selecting targets. "His wife?" I ask, remembering how he'd told me about his deceased spouse, how teaching gave him purpose after her passing. "Never existed," Jenkins says flatly. "It's part of his standard narrative, creates sympathy, explains why a middle-aged man lives alone, and gives parents a false sense of security." My stomach churns. All those gold stars and progress reports. "Grooming," she confirms, building trust with both the children and their parents, making himself seem like a caring, dedicated teacher. She slides another document toward me, a printed report with Vincent's criminal history. 3 different names, 5 different states, allegations dating back 15 years. "We've been searching his computer," Jenkins says, turning her laptop toward me. "This is what we found." The screen shows a video feed of my house, my front door, to be exact. The timestamp indicates it's from 3 months ago. Jenkins clicks through more footage. Marcus getting off the school bus, me leaving for work, our kitchen window at night. "He's had your house under surveillance for months," she explains. "We found cameras hidden in several locations around your neighborhood, some disguised as utility boxes, others as birdhouses. I feel violated, exposed. All those months, he was watching us, planning." "There's more," Jenkins says, hesitating hesitation in her voice. She pulls out a USB drive. We found recordings of all the piano lessons. He was studying Marcus's responses, his routine, learning how to manipulate him. She plays a clip. Marcus's voice comes through clearly. My mom works late on Thursdays. Victor's voice, smooth and encouraging. That must be hard. Who stays with you then? Nobody. I have a key. Mom says I'm responsible enough now. You certainly are. Very mature for 8. I close my eyes, feeling sick. All those innocent conversations. All that information freely given because we trusted him. The calendar date, I say, forcing myself to look at Jenkins. The one that was circled. 3 weeks from now. Jenkins nods grimly. Thursday. When Marcus would be home alone. Oh God. I press my hand to my mouth. There's something else you should know, Jenkins says, her voice softening slightly. The humming sound Marcus heard from the locked room? It wasn't machinery. She slides another photo across the table. It shows a small room with a child-sized bed, soundproofed walls, and a ventilation system. The chemical smell you noticed was from the soundproofing adhesive. He was preparing it. Tears burn in my eyes as the full horror sinks in. Not just planning to take my son, but having a place ready to keep him. How? I struggle to find words. How did no one know? He's been in our neighborhood for almost a year. That's his pattern, Jenkins explains. He chooses affluent, busy neighborhoods where people are friendly but not intrusive. Places where single parents might appreciate someone taking an interest in their child. He's methodical, patient. She pulls out a notebook filled with Victor's handwriting. He had detailed notes on your work schedule, when you go grocery shopping, which neighbors you talk to regularly, even notes about your ex-husband's visitation patterns. I think back to all the personal questions Victor had asked over the months, always seeming so supportive of a single mom. How he'd listened sympathetically when I mentioned struggles with Marcus's father. All of it calculated. What happens now? I ask. We're building the case, Jenkins says. With what we found in his home and on his computer, we have enough to hold him while we investigate further. The DA is confident about multiple charges. I should feel relieved, but something in her expression tells me there's more. What aren't you telling me? Jenkins hesitates. Vincent has connections we don't fully understand yet. Money that doesn't match the profile of a retired teacher. And, she pauses, there are 6 children still missing from communities where he previously lived. The implication hits me like a physical blow. You think he wasn't working alone? We don't know yet, but we're investigating every possibility. As I drive home, I keep checking my rearview mirror, the paranoia now permanently embedded in my mind. When I walk into our house, Marcus runs to hug me, and I hold him tighter than usual. Mom, you're squishing me, he protests. Sorry, buddy, I say, forcing a smile. Just missed you today. Can I still have my piano lesson next Tuesday? He asks, and my heart breaks at his innocence. No, sweetie. Mr. Victor had to go away for a while, but I was learning for your release, he pouts. We'll find you a new teacher, I promise, though the thought of trusting anyone with my son again seems impossible. That night, after Marcus is asleep, I sit at my kitchen table with my laptop, looking at the recordings Detective Jenkins gave me. Piano lessons, where Vincent subtly questioned my son about our home security, our schedule, whether I dated, if his father was involved in his life. One clip makes me freeze. Marcus playing a simple melody while Victor stands behind him, hand resting on his shoulder. You're so talented, Marcus, Victor says. Special. I knew it the moment I saw you. Really? My son's voice, full of pride. Oh yes, I've been waiting for someone just like you. I slam the laptop closed, bile rising in my throat. I check all the locks in the house, then check them again. I move a chair against the front door. I bring Marcus's pillow and blanket into my room, watching him sleep on my floor. Tomorrow, I'll call a security company. I'll change our routines, our locks, maybe even consider moving. But tonight, I just need to know my son is safe, that the monster who planned to steal him is locked away. But as I finally drift into an uneasy sleep, Detective Jenkins' words echo in my mind. 6 children still missing. Connections we don't fully understand. Money that doesn't match his profile. This isn't over. The call from Detective Jenkins comes at 3:17 a.m., jolting me from the first real sleep I've had in days. My hand fumbles for the phone in the dark. Mrs. Walsh, I need you to stay calm. Those words have the opposite effect. I'm instantly upright, heart hammering. Vincent's been released, she says, her voice tight with controlled anger. Procedural error during the search. Judge granted bail this morning. What? The word comes out as a whisper. How is that possible? You found the search warrant didn't specifically include the basement area. His lawyer argued successfully that you entering his home constituted trespassing, which made the initial evidence discovery inadmissible. She sighs heavily. We're still building the case with what we found after obtaining a proper warrant, but for now, he's out. I glance at Marcus sleeping on his makeshift bed on my floor, peaceful and unaware. Where is he now? That's why I'm calling. He was released 4 hours ago and hasn't returned to his residence. We have officers watching his house, but she pauses. I thought you should know. After hanging up, I check every window and door lock twice. I drag a heavy dresser in front of the front door. I sit on the edge of my bed with a kitchen knife beside me, watching Marcus sleep until dawn breaks. The security system gets installed the next day. Cameras, motion sensors, glass break detectors. The technician gives me a concerned look when I ask him to put sensors on every single window, even the tiny one in the upstairs bathroom. Planning for Fort Knox? He jokes. I don't smile back, just being thorough. That night, Marcus has his first nightmare. His screams pierce the darkness around 2 a.m., and I rush to his side, finding him tangled in his blankets, eyes wide with terror. He was in my room, he gasps between sobs. Mr. Victor was standing by my bed. I check the security system, no alerts, no breaches, before wrapping Marcus in my arms, rocking him like I did when he was a toddler. It was just a dream, baby. He can't get in, I promise. But his small body trembles against mine. He said he's still coming for me. He said we have a special lesson planned. I don't sleep again that night. 3 days later, I'm making dinner when my phone chimes times with a security alert. Someone's lingering near our back fence. The camera footage shows only a shadow, there and gone in seconds. I call the police, who send an officer to drive by. They find nothing. This happens twice more over the next week. Fleeting shadows, distant movement, never quite captured clearly on camera. Each time, the police response is slower, their reassurances more perfunctory. I can tell they're starting to think I'm paranoid. Marcus hasn't slept in his own room since the nightmares started. Each night, he curls up in my bed, clutching his stuffed dinosaur like a shield. The school counselor calls me in for a meeting, concerned about his withdrawal from friends, his jumpiness in class. Has something happened at home? She asks gently. I consider telling her everything about Vincent, the basement room, the files, but stop myself. How do I explain that a monster targeted my son without making Marcus feel even more unsafe? We're going through some changes, I say instead. His father and I are having custody discussions. The lie comes easily, a simpler explanation than the truth. At 1:42 a.m. on a Tuesday night, exactly 2 weeks after Vincent's release, my phone buzzes with another security alert. This time, it's the camera at our front door. The footage shows nothing but darkness. I'm about to dismiss it as another false alarm when I notice something. The porch light is off. It should be on. I never turn it off at night anymore. I check the app again, switching to the side yard camera. For a split second, a figure moves across the frame. My blood turns to ice. I dial 911 with shaking fingers, whispering that someone is outside my house. The dispatcher tells me to stay on the line while officers are dispatched. I grab the baseball bat I've kept beside my bed and move silently to check on Marcus. He's still asleep, oblivious. I close his door quietly and position myself in the hallway, bat raised, phone pressed to my ear. The dispatcher asks if I'm still there. Yes, I whisper. How far away are the officers? About 8 minutes out. A sound from downstairs makes me freeze, the soft click of the back door handle turning. The security system should alarm if the door opens, but what if he's found a way to disable it? Someone's trying to get in, I whisper to the dispatcher. Please hurry, ma'am. Is there a safe room you can go to? Somewhere you can lock yourself and your son in? I back toward Marcus's room, keeping my eyes on the staircase. We're upstairs. The security system suddenly blares throughout the house. The back door alarm. He's in. Marcus bolts upright in bed, eyes wide with terror as I rush into his room. Mom, it's okay, I lie, dragging his desk against the door. The police are coming. The dispatcher's voice comes through my phone. Footsteps on the stairs, slow and deliberate, not even trying to be quiet now that the alarm has announced his presence. Marcus whimpers, and I push him toward the closet. Hide in there, I whisper. Don't come out until I say it's safe. But Mom, now Marcus. He scrambles into the closet as the footsteps reach the top of the stairs. I position myself behind the bedroom door, bat raised, heart thundering in my chest. The handle turns. The desk slows the door's movement, but doesn't stop it. It inches open, scraping against the carpet. A hand appears in the gap, then an arm. I swing the bat with every ounce of strength I possess. There's a sickening crack and a howl of pain. The door slams shut as the intruder stumbles back. I throw my weight against the desk, pushing it harder against the door. You broke my fucking hand! Vincent's voice, distorted with pain and rage, comes through the door. You think this changes anything? I've been watching you for months. I know everything about you and your precious Marcus. The police are coming, I shout, hoping my voice doesn't betray my terror. They won't get here in time. Something heavy slams against the door, making the desk slide an inch. I've waited too long for this. He's special. I need him. Another slam against the door. The desk moves again. You don't understand what you're interfering with, Vincent continues, his voice eerily calm despite the situation. This is bigger than you know. There are others waiting for him. Others. Jenkins' words echo in my mind. 6 children still missing. Connections we don't fully understand. The door splinters at the hinges with the next impact. I back toward the closet where Marcus is hiding, bat still raised. Mom? Marcus's terrified whisper comes from behind the closet door. Stay in there, I hiss. The bedroom door gives way with a final crash, the desk toppling sideways. Vincent stands in the doorway, blood streaming from his right hand, his face contorted with rage and something else, a fanatical gleam in his eyes that chills me to the bone. Where is he? He demands, scanning the room. I lunge forward with the bat, but he's ready this time. He sidesteps and grabs the bat with his uninjured hand, yanking it from my grasp. I stumble forward, off balance, and he shoves me hard against the wall. This could have been easy, he snarls, his face inches from mine. A simple transaction. He wouldn't have been harmed. Transaction? I gasp, struggling against his grip. You have no idea what he's worth to the right people. His eyes flick toward the closet. They've been waiting for someone with his exact profile. The perfect candidate. Distant sirens wail outside, growing louder. Vincent's head turns toward the sound, his grip loosening slightly. I seize the moment, driving my knee up hard between his legs. He doubles over with a grunt of pain, and I scramble away, grabbing the lamp from the nightstand and smashing it against his head. Vincent crumples to the floor as flashing blue lights illuminate the bedroom window. Footsteps pound up the stairs, and 2 officers burst into the room, weapons drawn. Police, don't move! I sink to my knees, the adrenaline draining from my body. My son, I gasp. He's in the closet. As one officer secures Vincent, the other gently opens the closet door. Marcus launches himself into my arms, sobbing against my chest. I hold him tightly, my own tears flowing freely now. You're safe, I whisper into his hair. You're safe now. But even as the officers lead Vincent away in handcuffs, his words echo in my mind. Others waiting. This is bigger than you know. The perfect candidate. And I know, with absolute certainty, that this nightmare is far from over. The trial begins on a Monday in early spring, almost 6 months after the night Vincent broke into our home. I sit in the back row of the courtroom, my mother beside me clutching my hand as the prosecutor lays out the case against the man who nearly stole my son. Vincent Calloway systematically targeted 28 families across 7 states over a 15-year period, she tells the jury, her voice steady and unwavering. 6 children from those communities remain missing to this day. A collective gasp ripples through the courtroom. I've known this fact since Detective Jenkins first told me, but hearing it stated so plainly in court makes my stomach clench. 6 families still waiting for answers. 6 children who weren't as lucky as Marcus. The evidence against Vincent is overwhelming. The prosecution displays photos of the basement room where he'd planned to keep Marcus, the soundproofed walls, the child-sized bed. They show the jury the meticulous files he kept on each child, including the one with my son's name that started this whole nightmare. The defendant didn't just plan these abductions, the prosecutor continues. He integrated himself into these communities, established trust, and used his position as a piano teacher to study his victims' routines and vulnerabilities. Vincent sits at the defense table, looking smaller somehow than I remember. His beard is gone, his hair shorter. He stares straight ahead, expressionless, as if none of this has anything to do with him. His attorney, expensive looking in a tailored suit, occasionally whispers in his ear, but Vincent rarely responds. The most difficult day comes when Marcus has to testify. After weeks of preparation with a child psychologist and the prosecutor, he appears via closed-circuit television from a room elsewhere in the courthouse. I watch my brave 8-year-old on the monitor as he answers questions about his Tuesday piano lessons, about the locked front door, about the strange humming sounds from the basement. Mr. Victor always locked the door when my lessons started, Marcus explains, his voice small but clear. He said it was to keep other students from interrupting, but there were never any other students there when I had my lessons. Did Mr. Victor ever ask you questions about your family? The prosecutor asks gently. Marcus nods. He asked lots of questions about my mom's work schedule and if my daddy lived with us. He wanted to know who picked me up from school and if I was ever home alone. And did he ever show you any rooms besides the piano room? No, Marcus says. But sometimes when I needed to use the bathroom, I could hear humming coming from behind a door in the hallway. When I asked about it, he said it was just the furnace and I shouldn't worry about it. Vincent's lawyer tries to suggest that Marcus is confused, that he's been coached, that children often misinterpret innocent questions. But there's no shaking Marcus's testimony. Even on the screen, I can see his hands trembling, but his voice remains steady. When it's over, the judge thanks him for being so brave, and I rush to the separate room to wrap him in my arms. You did so good, baby, I whisper into his hair. So good. The trial lasts 3 weeks. The prosecution presents evidence from Vincent's computer, the surveillance footage of our house, the recordings of Marcus's piano lessons, the online communications with unnamed associates discussing acquisition targets and delivery dates. Most chilling are the financial records. Hundreds of thousands of dollars flowing into offshore accounts after certain dates that correspond with children who disappeared from communities where Vincent had lived. Detective Jenkins testifies about the investigation, about the connections they've made to similar cases across the country. We believe Mr. Calloway was part of a larger network, she explains. The evidence suggests he was essentially a scout, identifying and acquiring children for others. Vincent's lawyer tries to paint him as mentally ill, a lonely man whose grief over his fictional dead wife drove him to obsession. But the prosecution methodically dismantles this defense, with evidence of Vincent's calculated planning, his multiple identities over the years, his careful selection of neighborhoods and families. This was not the work of a disturbed individual acting alone, the prosecutor tells the jury during closing arguments. This was a professional who knew exactly what he was doing and for whom he was doing it. When the verdict comes back guilty on all counts, I feel no triumph, only a hollow relief. The judge sentences Vincent to multiple life terms without the possibility of parole. As they lead him away, he turns and looks directly at me, his expression unreadable. I stare back, refusing to look away until he's gone from the courtroom. Outside, reporters cluster on the courthouse steps. I decline all interviews, hurrying Marcus to the car where Detective Jenkins waits to escort us home. The investigation into Vincent's associates continues, she tells me, but they've already identified 2 more individuals connected to his operation. Will they find the missing children? I ask quietly, making sure Marcus can't hear from the back seat. Jenkins's expression tells me everything I need to know. We're doing everything we can, she says, but some of these cases are years old now. The weeks after the trial are difficult. Marcus still has nightmares, still refuses to sleep alone. He jumps at unexpected sounds and watches strangers with suspicious eyes. The innocence of childhood has been stolen from him as surely as if Vincent had succeeded in taking him physically. We start therapy, both individual sessions for Marcus and family therapy for both of us. The therapist specializes in childhood trauma and uses play therapy to help Marcus process what happened. She tells me recovery will take time, that healing isn't linear. He may never be exactly the same child he was before, she explains gently during one of our parent sessions. But children are remarkably resilient. With consistent support and the right tools, he can learn to feel safe again. Marcus hasn't touched a piano since that night Vincent broke into our house. The very mention of music lessons makes him pale and quiet. His therapist suggests we don't push it, that forcing him back to music might only deepen the trauma. But 3 months after the trial, I find Marcus sitting at the electronic keyboard his grandmother bought him last Christmas. He's picking out a simple melody with one finger, hesitant and halting. I freeze in the doorway, afraid to interrupt this moment. He senses me watching and looks up, his expression uncertain. Is it okay if I play a little? He asks, as if seeking permission to reclaim something that was once his. Of course it is, I say, careful to keep my voice casual. That sounds nice. He nods and turns back to the keyboard, adding a second finger to the melody. It's not for Elise, piece or any of the pieces Victor taught him. It's something simpler, something new. That night, after Marcus is finally asleep, I sit at the kitchen table with the folder of case documents Jenkins gave me after the trial. There are still so many unanswered questions, so many loose ends. Who were the people Vincent was working for? What happened to those 6 missing children? Will we ever truly be safe? I close the folder and push it away. Those questions matter, but they can't consume me. What matters most is the child sleeping down the hall, the one I managed to keep safe, the one who, despite everything, found his way back to the keyboard today. Tomorrow, I'll call the music therapy program. The counselor recommended a trauma-informed approach that might help Marcus reclaim his love of music without the shadow of Vincent hanging over it. It won't erase what happened, but it's a step forward. As I check the locks one last time before bed, a habit I doubt I'll ever break, I think about how close we came to being another statistic, another family left wondering. The thought still makes my hands shake, but we survived. We're healing. And someday, I hope the music in our house will be louder than our fear.